Hi everyone. So I thought I'd just make a quick update because there have been some great developments today. The first off is, well, it's not been today, but it's been a sort of rumor over the last couple of weeks. It's been great fun to watch. India making noise and rumoring about making Bitcoin illegal. Now, what? Good news, you said? Yeah. One of my favorite things that can possibly happen is a country try to make Bitcoin illegal. Because what that tends to do, it does a number of things, and all of them help in the long run. First off, it teaches everyone a lesson that I have to drive home and hit hard with every time I get a new client, which is you cannot leave your coins on exchanges because there's a difference between buying bitcoins and owning bitcoins. And owning them takes a little bit of work and a little bit of practice, but once you've done it, you have the hardest, most secure form of ownership that has ever existed in humanity. You have the best money ever and you can store it entirely inside your head. That's new. There's no physical element to the possession. It's pure intellectual property. And it can be so much rather than it be ethereal, something like where I wrote this song and I own the intellectual property to that. Instead, it's I own those bitcoins and I can recognize the material value of that within minutes. I can buy a goddamn island in the Caribbean if I have enough bitcoin to do it, and I can do it in 10 minutes as well, as far as the bitcoin element of it goes. That's amazing, but that's actual ownership, right? Most people, however, just set up an account on an exchange, buy some Bitcoin, and then just leave it at that. Then, when the government comes along and makes it illegal, you realize those Bitcoins were never mine. They were the exchanges, and the exchange had a contractual agreement to recognize my ownership of them that they might honor in certain circumstances. And guess what? The circumstances just changed. Now Bitcoin's illegal. Now they're not going to give me my Bitcoin. Now, if I leave India or wherever it is, I can't take my Bitcoin with me because they weren't mine. So India will be doing everyone a huge favor and teaching them this lesson that when you buy Bitcoin, you need to get them under your control. You can't just leave them on an exchange. Great. That's the first part of it I like. The second part of it I like is that when you make something illegal, you don't get rid of it, you just make it a lot more expensive. How much do you think cocaine would cost if it was legal? Probably about $10 a kilo, right? It would cost whatever coffee costs. But because it's illegal, it costs an absolute fortune, and that leads us to the conclusion that governments making things illegal consistently, not just with cocaine, but with everything, governments making things illegal makes them just more expensive because you add a bunch of headache to the supply chain. It has to, for obvious reasons. So I love it when governments do that because what happens is Bitcoin starts trading at a premium within that country, and that premium then manifests as an actual debasement of their native currency. So the rupee, I think it is, in India, the Indian rupee, if Bitcoin costs 20% more than in terms of what the international exchange rate says the Indian rupee is to the United States dollar, if you say, okay, Bitcoin costs $52,000, that's, maybe 500,000 Indian rupees, but Bitcoin actually, and when I try and buy a Bitcoin for 500,000 Indian rupees, I only get zero point 0.9 of a Bitcoin. They're actually 600,000 rupees. What does that mean? That beautifully doesn't mean that Bitcoin's more expensive in India. It means that the rupee is worth less than the official exchange rate. And because Bitcoin, remember, is the actual proper yardstick for how we measure value, because it can't be messed around and screwed with by governments like fiat currencies can. So what this is it's a massive orange pilling and truth bomb for an entire population, and I love it. It never lasts long either. And usually, in my more cynical moments, I think it's just politicians floating these rumors saying we're gonna make it illegal, and then at the last minute they say, actually, we're not going to. And usually that's just because they want to manipulate the price down so they can buy more for themselves. And China did this for years, and they stopped doing it once the market starts ignoring them. And to be honest, the market has shrugged this off pretty nicely. So again, they're sort of finding out how powerless they are in the face of this absolute behemoth of a construction that is just eating governments and banks with non-stop, relentlessly, 24 hours a day. While you're sitting down on Thanksgiving eating your dinner, Bitcoin is destroying your institutions from the inside out. It's beautiful to watch. That's the first piece of good news. The second piece of good news, which everyone has likely already heard by now, is Elon Musk and Tesla. Elon Musk has tweeted today, as he promised in the past when he made his $1.5 billion purchase of Bitcoin a few months ago. He said Tesla is going to start accepting Bitcoin directly for Teslas now. And that was a really exciting thing, and we knew it was going to happen, and it has happened. Let's go back a bit. When he made that initial $1.5 billion purchase of Bitcoin, he has since then, I believe, made $1 billion in paper, in just the appreciation of Bitcoin in that time, which apparently, I haven't done the maths myself, is more than the company has ever made from selling cars combined, just in his Bitcoin investment alone. Now, of course, I don't want to be disingenuous here. He hasn't made any dollars because he's not about to sell those Bitcoins and realize the gain right now. But it gives you some sort of... Every company that starts holding, if you're a restaurant or you're Michael Saylor or you're a hedge fund or you're the biggest electric car manufacturer in the world, the minute you put Bitcoin on your balance sheet, you're a Bitcoin company that also makes cars, or you're a Bitcoin company that also sells software or sells food. You know, it's just like McDonald's is now a real estate industry because they just own so much real estate in so many central cities that they happen to also make food. Everyone is now becoming a Bitcoin industry or a Bitcoin company that also does whatever they do on the side. Tesla is almost now a Bitcoin company that also makes cars. But the thing I really wanted to get into today with these tweets is there is some good news in what Elon's tweeted that's being quite widely ignored, and I think it needs to be highlighted. So he said you can now buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. Amazing, but so what? You could buy a Tesla with, rupees or whatever in India at this point. So what? It doesn't make it a great currency, right? It lends us a lot of legitimacy, but we've been able to do that in the past with huge companies like Microsoft. We've been able to buy games on the Xbox and things with Bitcoin. So what? It's the news everyone's celebrating, but I find it underwhelming. The next piece of good news is Bitcoin paid to Tesla will be retained as Bitcoin, not converted to fiat currency. Now that's a little bit more impressive because in the past, when we've been lent credibility by big companies accepting Bitcoin, like Microsoft, it was helpful for our credibility, sure. But what would happen is they would take the Bitcoin, give you the product or service, and then just sell the Bitcoin for dollars or whatever. Now, all that would do is just mean that it would just create downward pressure on the market. No additional downward pressure than if you were to sell your Bitcoin for dollars and then buy the product or service. But nonetheless, they weren't actually helping us out. They weren't helping us progress towards a circular Bitcoin economy. Elon Musk is helping us do that now because they can, at some point, when Tesla needs to fund a new wave of development or product launch, or maybe the finances can merge somewhat with SpaceX because that's eating up a lot of money in research and all these rocket launches. At some point, Elon Musk is going to want to spend that, but he's going to spend the Bitcoin on something he wants. He's not going to spend it on dollars because dollars are not a good way to store value. Dollars are a temporary medium of exchange and don't keep more of them than you need to at any one time. I understand that's not really doable for most people. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and as the extra dollars just provides additional security and gets them a bit longer. But if you're doing well for yourself and you're living below your means, is that the right expression? What I mean to say is, are you earning comfortably enough to support your lifestyle, and your lifestyle's not too extravagant, and it could be back down a little bit, or you could have your belt tightened a bit? In that case, please don't keep more in dollars than you really need to. But ignoring that tangent for a minute, I want to get on to the third part of Elon's tweet because that is where the real gesture of him having understood Bitcoin properly and being in it for the long haul comes. He says Tesla is using only internal and open source software and operates Bitcoin nodes directly. That is huge. And that's the part that no one noticed from today, because he's doing that, but you can do that too. And that is something that nothing else in the world can claim. You can't be your own stockbroker. You can't run your own Bloomberg terminal, not in a way that's accessible like Bitcoin is. You can't be the one that verifies whether you really have received a bank wire or ACH or a SEPA transfer. You can't verify these things. All of these things happen in centralized places. You can't really be the one that verifies whether you received any Ethereum or any other shitcoin because it's never possible. This is Bitcoin's innovation. Anyone can run a full node because the software has been written well enough that you can run it on a Raspberry Pi for less than $100. You can buy a computer that I'm holding up in my hand here for under $100. You can get this thing, and you can run all of the software you need to run. Not just a full node, but you can run a whole suite of applications. You can run Lightning on top of it. You can run BTC Pay Server, which is a great accounting software. BTC Pay Server on a Raspberry Pi is pretty much all Tesla needs for their entire global operation, and you can have that set up as well. And it will cost you $100 for the Raspberry Pi, maybe $200 for the solid state drive, and what else do you need? An SD card, an Ethernet cable, permanently on internet. Are you serious? This is basically all you need. Yeah, if you're Tesla, maybe you'll want to set up a few redundancies, but that's it. You need to get your extended public keys, depending on the format you're using. I haven't actually checked out what kind of Bitcoin addresses Tesla are asking for, whether they're native SegWit or legacy or whatever. I would imagine they're native SegWit. That means you upload a ZPub, and you can generate the ZPub from a hardware wallet like Coldcard. I mean, sure, there's going to be some multi-sig stuff set up here, and there's some more sophistication you can get in if you like, but it's not strictly necessary. And the point is, because Bitcoin is created in a non-discriminatory, with non-discriminatory intentions, there's no separation between anything. There's no separation between different identities and different scales. Bitcoin doesn't understand stuff. It's like the internet. The internet doesn't care if you're Tesla.com or if you're, Steve's, I'm growing some weed plants in my mum's garden, .com. It doesn't matter. The internet will treat both the websites exactly the same, and Bitcoin will treat you the same whether you're Tesla or whether you're, selling ice cream. And that's the huge part of it, because no one else can make that claim. Like, if they come out I have to allude to the shitcoins again. If a shitcoin comes out and makes the claim, you can buy a Tesla with insert shitcoin here. That's going to be a big marketing and publicity stunt and a pump and a lend of legitimacy and all that. But who cares? That's not really the news here. People will take money for stuff that they can turn back into whatever they think is money. Who cares? Bitcoin paid to Tesla will be retained as Bitcoin, not converted as fiat into fiat currency. Okay, well, that shows actual long-term confidence in the thing. That's different, and I really appreciate that. And he's being very clever doing that. But we have only internal and open source software, and we operate our own Bitcoin nodes. They've walked away from all of the third parties. And this is what Tesla are used to doing anyway, because the reason they make such affordable electric vehicles is because they have the entire supply chain under their own control. They don't have to buy this from there and that from there. And, it's always great for a company when they can do that. But what's going on with Tesla is they're now doing that financially as well. They're saying, we don't need to ask credit card processors if our customers have the money. We verify with the Bitcoin network ourselves whether they have the money or not. So when you paid me 0.8 Bitcoin for your Tesla, or, me being Tesla in this case, when you paid me for that car, the 0.8 Bitcoin, I decided that you had that 0.8 Bitcoin because I checked my node. My node is how I interface with the Bitcoin network. My node tells me you had that coin, so you have that coin. There's no third party here. There's no one that's going to phone anyone and say, did you really mean for this transaction to go through? No, it's not going to happen. There's no fraud departments. There's nothing. Bitcoin is freedom from middlemen. No banks, no credit cards, no nothing. No fees. I mean, yes, there's network fees, but, well, who cares about a $2 transaction fee when you're buying a $50,000 vehicle? I mean, we're not going to get into Lightning here. Tesla it's not appropriate to buy cars with the Lightning network. But the fees, I mean, you're walking away from credit card fees. Those are 6-7%. I think American Express is 7%. And you don't get the money. There's no final settlement. It takes months for you to actually get the money. All these costs are borne by all of us collectively, and it sucks. How many people are working for every company that aren't relevant to what the company actually does? You make cars. Okay, look at this huge department over here that deals with finance. How complicated is it? Bitcoin simplifies all that. Everything's open, it's out there. You keep a track record of your inventory, you keep a track record of your income, what it was for, how much you sold it for. Everything is public information. You're never going to lose it. You can lose records of what's what, but it's all going to sit there in the blockchain anyway. And you don't need to get anyone's permission. It's just free money. There's just so much. It's freedom money. It's not free money as in here, I'm going to give you $20 for free. It's freedom money. And of course that attracts a guy like Elon Musk, who needs to just be able to express himself and has every fight with every regulatory agency and is constantly encroaching on them and annoying them by doing things that look like market manipulation, because he wants to be free. He wants to escape. I don't want to worship the guy too much. I'm not a super Elon Musk fanboy. I'm not about to go out and buy a Tesla. In fact, my favorite tweet today was someone saying Teslas are a scam to steal your Bitcoin. And I agree with that sentiment. I would much rather drive a shitty car for the next 5 years and then buy a Tesla for 0.002 Bitcoin and then buy one for almost a whole Bitcoin today. So I'm going to wait around for that. Anyway, that's been today's update. Thanks so much.